Hi everyone, welcome to our today's live stream, which is going to be choosing classes for transfer students specifically. My name is Louis. I am the analyst here at the Center for Advising Career and Student Success. If you're watching this on YouTube, there should be a box in the lower left-hand corner that says be a part of the conversation. If you click that, you can join our live chat, ask any questions that come up during this live stream. Even if they're a little bit off topic, we want to make sure that we can interact with everyone out there. And you can also, if you have any trouble with that, because I think it requires a Google Plus account, you can also just comment on the comments box below the YouTube stream, and we'll make sure to answer those as well. This is part of our 13 live stream series that we're doing for all of next week and the week after that, I believe. Every day has a different theme, but this is one of those themes that we're going to repeat it. I believe on Tuesday we're going to do a second broadcast of this with different advisors because this is a really important one, making sure all transfer students can choose their classes. Also want to encourage you, if you missed some of our previous live streams, two that would be really helpful for transfer students is live stream 1, which is browsing the catalog or understanding the catalog, and live stream 2 is understanding the web schedule. And those are available right now, probably links on the very same YouTube page. I'm going to introduce our two advisor hosts today. Ladies, take it away.
Thanks, Louie. So hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Pinales. I am one of the academic advisors here in our office. I currently advise for psychology, computer science, and communication design.
My name is Mindy Sanchez-Ryan. I'm also an academic advisor. I advise for Visual and Public Art, Global Studies, Social and Behavioral Science, Collaborative Health and Human Services, and I also do the lower division advising for world languages and cultures, including Spanish and Japanese, as well as music.
Awesome. So today, like Louis said, we're going to talk about the best kind of options for transfer students to choosing classes. This can get a little tricky because every transfer student and every different major is going to have different requirements and things they should take their every semester. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. We're going to mostly teach you different tools that you can use so you can kind of have an idea of what classes to take. And then you'll also be getting specific emails from your advisors with more details about the different classes. But we want to show you kind of ahead of time. That way you can be prepared for those emails. So I'm going to share my screen so you can kind of see what we'll be talking about today. Go. Okay, so these are the different topics that we're going to kind of cover today. The first one, we're going to do a quick kind of overview of the catalog and the different things that you can find on the catalog website. This is really important because it'll break it down by your major. It has a lot of good information that you will be using throughout your time here. And then we'll go into some specifics about university requirements, some unit requirements that it's good to be aware of, and also transfer credit and things like that. So we'll get started by going into the catalog. And so you should be familiar with this site. This is our csumb.edu website. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you can find the catalog link, which will take you to the most current catalog. So for all of you that are watching, your catalog will be the 2016-2017 catalog. Every year we get a new one, so this will move into the catalog archive, which you can find on the same page. But we're going to go from this page here. So the first thing you want to do is find your major. So you go to academic programs, undergraduate programs, and it'll have a list of all the majors. And we will go with psychology, because I'm familiar with that one. So those in psychology, you'll get a lucky little preview. So this is what's going to come up for any major that you decide to be a part of while you're here on campus. It has a list of all the required courses, your learning outcomes, and a course pathway. So we're going to go over the required courses real quickly so you can kind of see what that looks like. It has some information about general education and university requirements. And then it'll break down all of the requirements that you need to complete in that major. So this is a place where you can kind of get a good idea of what will be required for you to graduate. And you want to pay attention to the upper division classes, which are 300 level and above. these are the classes that you're going to be taking while you're here at CSUMB. So you'll see there's quite a few. The thing about this is it's a list. It doesn't break anything down by the semester that you're supposed to take them. It doesn't list kind of what the specifics are. It just gives you a broad list. So that's what this page is for. If you want to kind of know when you should be taking those classes, you want to look at the course pathway. And this, again, is not a fit-all. It is a kind of generic pathway that the departments have put together for students that are typically on track, but not everybody is going to be at the same level or with the same requirements. So keep that in mind while you're looking at this. So you'll see here is a transfer pathway. This is what a typical first semester will look like if you're starting in fall. Typically, you'll take some kind of pro seminar class, which is the Psych 300 in this case, and then you'll take electives and other things. So it gives you, like I said, a general kind of idea. It'll give you a unit count that is typically required or recommended, and it's different, like we said, for every major. Okay. So we can go and maybe just look at one other one just so you can kind of see what they look like. We can look at SBS. So again, you'll see the required courses. There's a few different concentrations in SBS, so there's a little, but they'll have all the major requirements. You'll also see that they're kind of broken into concentrations. So this will be different for every major. There might be concentrations, they may not have concentrations, but you'll want to pay attention to that too if you are in a major that does have concentrations assigned.
And if you're in a major that has concentrations assigned and your advisor has already reached out to you, has already sent you an email, feel free to respond to that email and let them know what concentration you'll be declaring. And if you haven't decided on one, that's okay. You have the first semester to kind of decide, because there's always core courses that you could start working towards in the major that all students within that major have to take.
So while you're on this page, you'll also see, so there's a couple of different things you'll be covering while you're here. One of them are the major learning outcomes, or MLOs. So those are the outcomes that have been set up by each major for you to complete while you're here at CSUMB. So usually you'll see, like I mentioned, the learning outcomes. So it gives you the different kind of categories, and then the classes that are in the required courses will fit into those different categories.
So if you're ever asking yourself why you have to take a particular course, just refer to those learning outcomes.
Perfect. And then you'll see the course pathway again. So for SBS, they have quite a few. So it depends on the concentration that you're in, and most of them will be set up for that way. So you'll see this one's kind of broken down starting with freshmen, but you can typically probably start in the junior year.
Can I hop in here?
Yeah.
So I want to remind everyone, if you're joining us late, you can click on the box in the corner of the screen that says be a part of the conversation. We have a live chat in there. We'll answer questions as they come in. You can also comment directly on the YouTube page. And we do have a couple questions if you ladies don't mind.
Yeah, let's take them.
So the first one is from Perla, and she's asking, how many units should a transfer student take on in their first semester?
Good question, Perla. So we usually recommend that students take 15 to 16 units every semester, and that's just to kind of keep you on track for the typical graduation in about 4 years, to finish all of the requirements that you have. But it's totally up to you what you feel comfortable with. It is going to be your first semester at a new school. So taking those 15 to 16 units might be a little too much. You have to at least take 12 to be full-time, and that's about 3 classes depending on how many units each class is. The 15 and 16 mark is about the 4 classes. So it just depends. That's kind of a loose question, but we'll say that a lot because really it's up to you if you're working, if you have other obligations, the kind of classes that you're taking. You have to take all of that into account. And when you're talking to your advisor, we'll usually talk to you about that. So if we feel like a class or a load is a little too much, we'll definitely tell you to make sure you're aware of kind of what you're taking on. But typically it's about 4 classes, which is about 15 to 16 units.
Great. Second question is from the YouTube stream. This is from Joey. Hi, my name is Joey. I'm a global studies major for the fall, and I was wondering, because they didn't have prerequisites for my major at my community college, would I take them at CSUMB, or am I exempt from taking it because I'm a transfer student?
So that's a great question. No, unfortunately, you're not exempt from having to take those prerequisites, but you can take them your first semester here. So for global studies, yes, you can take global studies 206 and global studies 214 and 215, or 215 your first semester here.
And I know that a lot of, or not a lot, but some majors will let you take the prereqs while you're taking the actual classes. It's definitely a case-by-case base, so check in with your advisor and we'll kind of work that out with you to make sure you stay on track.
It's probably a good segue, huh?
It is. Yeah, so we're going to kind of go back into the different requirements. So in the catalog, we kind of covered the different things that you can use, and the main one is the pathway, so you can have a general idea of the kind of classes to take. There are some specifics that we kind of touched on, but we'll go into a little more detail. So each major typically has a major pro seminar, and this is a class that you usually take in your first year that you're at CSUMB. The pro seminar is kind of like an introductory class to the major. In those classes, you'll learn a lot of different things, but usually it relates to kind of what you'll be doing in that major, possibly what you can do with that major when you graduate. And you'll get more information about the classes that you'll be taking while you're here and completing your degree. There's also some university requirements that we kind of wanted to touch on. So the first one is your upper division writing requirement. Here on our campus, we call it your GWAR. And it also is the A4 in the general education. And I'll actually show you the schedule while we're talking about this. So to find the schedule, you just go to the bottom of the CSUMB page. So on the right-hand side, you'll see all of the university requirements, and the one we're talking about right now is the GWAR, or the Upper Division Writing. So this is a class that is typically based on your major. So you'll see that Bio has Bio 300, Business has a specific Upper Division Writing class. Most of them do. I think there's only a few exceptions, which are psych and kinesiology, actually. But you'll take a class, and in this class you're learning how to write as an upper division student. And it is a requirement by the state of California. So you'll be taking that. Usually we recommend you take it sooner rather than later, since you'll be doing a lot of writing in your program. But that is, again, something you'll kind of speak with your advisor about to see if there's a certain time to take that class. The other university requirement that we have that's an upper division class is your D4, the Upper Division Service Learning, which is right here. So that, again, is a class that is typically specific for your major. There are a few exceptions, again, that don't have them tied to your major, but your advisor will let you know about that. In this requirement, you actually get to go out into the community and provide service hours. Typically it's related to your major, so you'll be getting exposure to that field. And it's a really great opportunity to kind of network in this area as well. So you'll see there are usually 4 units. Some of them are a little bigger, some are a little smaller, but you'll be covering this in your major as well. So these are those MLOs that we talked about. So it covers a major requirement, and it also typically will cover a university requirement as well.
So it's really important that you refer to the catalog for your requirements because, well, like Jessica said, some majors have the area A4 and D4 built into the major and some don't. So again, check in with your advisor because sometimes there are courses that the department may recommend for you to take even if it's not necessarily a requirement.
Indeed.
A major requirement. I mean, it's a requirement. This might not be a major.
Yeah, definitely. So the last kind of university requirement that we're going to cover is the language requirement. Most everybody has to complete this requirement with the exception of a few of our higher level majors. And the way you become exempt from the language requirement is if you've completed all of your general education, A through E, or you're transferring in with over 60 units. So we have them listed on the screen there. So if you see your major on there, that means that you are exempt as long as you've met those kind of prereqs. And this means that you do not have to complete the language. For those of you who aren't on that list, you will complete a language requirement. You have to get to the intermediate level of a language. We offer 4 different languages on our campus. So we have Spanish, we have Japanese, Italian, and American Sign Language. So you'll complete that while you're here, unless you've done that at your community college, which we have a lot of students come in and do. So again, it's a case by case. You can talk to your advisor if you have more questions about where you're at in that kind of spectrum, and we can go from there.
All right, let me jump in here one more time. Well, won't be the last time, but if you are just joining us on the stream, we are talking about courses to take for transfer students, incoming transfer students, and we just covered language exemptions. You can rewind this after the fact. It'll all be saved at the same link that it's at now. If you click on the Be a Part of a Conversation link on your screen, you'll be able to join our live chat in Google+. Otherwise, you can always comment on the YouTube page. And could we do a couple more questions?
Yes.
Would you mind taking your screen share off?
Sure.
So we can see your lovely faces?
Okay. Oh, there we go.
Okay, let me see if I can remember the order that these came in. Kaylor on YouTube is asking, is it safe to assume that classes being offered this summer will also be offered next summer?
Yes and no. It is definitely changes every summer. I think as we grow, we kind of start offering a few more classes. It's not a guarantee that the classes will be offered, but it is kind of a good guideline. It's usually what we tell students. Good answer.
All right, so don't count on it if your life depends on it. Over in the live chat, Andrea is asking, do we have to take Major Pro Seminar?
Yes. That's kind of one of the standard requirements across all majors. It's an introduction to the major. All majors have it. Yeah. And it's usually a prerequisite to your capstone course. So.
And usually there's a lot of good information in those classes. Not only do you get to learn about the major, but usually you'll get introduced to the professors that are in that major as well. There's guest speakers sometimes. So it's not just like a class to get over with. It's actually really valuable to your time here. So
you're also introduced to your, everyone will have a faculty mentor that will kind of guide you through your capstone project. So it's a very valuable course to take.
Yeah.
Great. Cynthia and Hans, I promise we'll get you at the next break, but let's keep going for now.
Okay. So we kind of got into the catalog and the pathways. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. Okay. Alrighty, so we talked about the pathways, we talked about the MLOs, which are major learning outcomes. Each major will have their own set of MLOs. We talked about the pro seminar and the different university requirements that you will be covering. So now we're going to get into a little more of the nitty-gritty. We're going to talk about some unit requirements that you have and also about transfer credit and some more tools that you can use while you're here.
Okay. So we'll start with, we'll go on to the next topic, which is Upper Division GE. So all students are required to complete 9 units of Upper Division GE. So when we say Upper Division, it has to be fulfilled here at CSUMB. I mentioned this when we were going through the catalog on one of the earlier live streams, but courses taken at a community college or lower division. So whenever you see something that says Upper Division, it has to be done here. Upper Division courses are not offered at a community college. So you have to take 9 units. So again, this is a requirement that depending on your major, it may be built into the major, it may not. And it all depends on how many units the class that you're taking is worth. So for example, if you're going to take an Area A4 course, which is your GWAR requirement, and say that's 4 units, you have 5 more units of Upper Division to fulfill. And again, you need to earn a C or better in these classes in order to fulfill the requirement. And then let's say you're taking your Area D4 Upper Division Service Learning, and if that's 5 units, then you've satisfied the 9 units of Upper Division GE. However, if the upper division service learning course is only 4 units, then you still have that 1 unit. And you're going to have to select another course from any area that's upper division GE. Upper division courses are numbered 300 or higher. So you want to keep a lookout for that. Some courses offered through your major that can satisfy particular major learning outcomes can work towards that. So just, again, we can't stress this enough. Always refer to your catalog requirements for your major.
And we'll show you a really great place to kind of find that information and how many units you've actually met for those GE upper division requirements in just a second. Actually, I'll probably go there now. So we're going to cover the transfer credit report, and we'll also cover the academic requirements page. And that will be kind of where you have all of your information. So first, we can go into the transfer credit report, and Mindy's going to give you a little more information about that.
Okay. So on the transfer credit report, you'll see a list of all of the courses that you've transferred in from your community college or from any other institution that you've attended. And you want to pay attention to the CSUMB course title, and that's where you'll see what it's being transferred in as and what area it's meeting here. Okay.
So you'll see a list. This is everything that you've ever taken at any other college. Typically, it will say, like Mindy said, what the class name is that transfers over here. That's not always the case. So it's always good to check in if you feel like something is a little off, if you feel like you've met a general education requirement and it's not showing up. You always want to check in with your advisor. We can look into it a little more. But it'll give you an idea of the class that you've taken and what that comes over as. So for an example, at Hartnell, the student took Math 13, and it came over as Stat 100 for our campus. It'll tell you the grade, and it'll also give you the number of units that you received.
And again, your most recent semester's work or at your community college may not show up on this report yet, but just keep checking, and it should be updated within the next few weeks.
Yeah, so you'll see this student is currently taking a class in spring 2016, and it shows in progress. So once that student submits his updated transcripts, then it'll show a grade. One other thing to show, so if you've done any tests like an AP exam or something like that, especially for transfer students, those test scores aren't always transferred to us. If you gave them to your community college, for example, you also have to send them to us here. So you have to go into College Board and ask that your tests be transferred over here if you want them to meet a requirement. A lot of students have maybe done AP language at their high school, and then the scores don't get transferred over here. So just make sure you check in with us about that. Yeah. So one other thing we wanted to mention, so at the very top of the transfer credit report, it'll show you the units that you've transferred. So this student went to Hartnell, Monty Ray went there, and he actually took 88 units at Hartnell. So there is a limit to the number of units that you can actually transfer, and that will count towards your units to graduate, and that's 70. So even though he's taken 88 units at Hartnell, he's only going to get credit for 70 of those units. So you want to keep an eye on that. If you've taken anything over 70, just keep in mind that you're only going to get that 70. Because sometimes that gets a little mixed up. So just make sure you keep that in mind. So when you're thinking about the units that you need to graduate, you're only using 70 of the units at your community college.
So we have a requirement, which is all students need to earn a minimum of 120 units to graduate. So if 70 are being applied, then you have to fulfill a minimum of 50 semester units here at CSUMB.
The one thing I wanted to show you also, so this is what your CMS account is going to look like once you have access after June 1st. You won't be able to see this just yet, but after June 1st you should have access. And this is what it's going to look like. There's a few things we want to kind of mention. So there is a hold box. So if you ever have a hold on your account or something that you need to address, it's going to be in this box. And typically, or not typically, but sometimes these can actually hold you up from registering. So it's really important to keep an eye on your holds box and make sure if there's something in there, you address it. You'll have a to-do list, so if there's ever anything that you need to do, it'll be populated here. Sometimes it's not always up to date, so if you see something that you think you did and that it shouldn't be on there, always check in and follow up with that as well. You'll have an enrollment date. So every semester, based on the units that you've completed, you get an enrollment date assigned to you so you can get into your classes for that next semester. So this one is a little off right now, but for those of you who are transferring and if you're attending orientation, your date should say June 21st. If you're unable to make orientation, you'll be registering on June 27th, I believe. So that'll be there, and that will change every semester.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I believe transfer students, the page you're looking at, you do have access to this page, but you don't have a lot of the options that this student has. I don't think you can view your transfer credit yet. You can't go to your schedule plan or your academic requirements, but most of you probably went to this page to pay your enrollment confirmation, and you might have some other stuff on here too.
Okay, so now we're going to go over how to access your academic requirements report. So this report records all of the courses that you've transferred in, which GE they've been assigned to, and which major requirements you fulfilled or are in progress. So you click on Academic Requirements Report, generate that report. It takes a little bit of time to generate that report, so just be patient. And eventually the goal is to have everything fulfilled, and that'll be indicated with a little green circle. Anything with a red box next to it means it hasn't been fulfilled. Okay, so first let's take a look at, whoops, I'm gonna make everyone dizzy here.
I'm getting nauseous, Mindy.
I know. I should let Jessica navigate. I'm not used to your mouse. Okay, there I go again. You do it.
Okay. Okay. So go ahead, Mindy.
Okay.
I'll just be
So up at the top, you'll see your academic plan, which Monty Ray is a psychology student, and his catalog year. So it's 2016. Now, if you're in a major that has a concentration, you'll see the concentration listed below your academic plan. Also, if you declare a minor and are working towards a minor, you'll see that here as well. Whoops. Okay, I'm gonna let you.
Okay.
Let's scroll down. Okay, so then there's the legend I was talking about. So requirement satisfied, green circle, in progress, the yellow diamond, and requirement not satisfied, red square. So I like to click on expand all so that you can see the course that fulfilled that particular requirement. Let's see what Monty Ray has fulfilled. I don't think he's fulfilled very much, has he?
Yeah, so this one is a little, it's not up to date because Monty Ray hasn't officially started as a student yet. So when you're a student and when your transfer credit comes in, the things that you transfer from your community college should be the green circle with the check mark. If something is not showing up, like we said, and you feel like you've met that requirement, always check in with your advisor and we can kind of help you sort that out because our system doesn't always recognize everything that it should come over.
And if you haven't declared a concentration, it won't show it until you do. So again, if you already know what concentration or area of focus or emphasis, every department kind of has a different name for that, email your advisor and let them know.
One of the other things about this academic requirements page is it'll show you the classes that we offer on our campus that meet that requirement. So if, for say, you are missing your Life Science B2, you'll see a list of all of the classes that we offer that meet that requirement. So you can get an idea of what you can take to fulfill that area. The other thing, so up at the top, these are all of the general education requirements. So most of these should be met when you transfer. If you scroll a little further down, sorry if I make you dizzy. you'll see we get into the language requirement. So it'll let you know if you're in one of those high unit majors and you've met those requirements we mentioned, you'll be exempt, and it should tell you there. It'll also show you the other university requirements that we mentioned. The first year seminar is strictly for freshmen, so transfer students, you shouldn't need this. The system doesn't always recognize this right away, so don't panic if you see this. You don't have to take it as long as you have over 30 units, which you should. And then it goes into some unit requirements. So overall GE, you have to have 48, so a lot of those you'll have finished already. This is where you can keep track of those upper division GE units that we mentioned. So there's 9 required, and you can see once you start taking classes that fill those requirements, they'll show up right here below that number. Then I'll go into more specifics about unit that you need. You need 120 total to graduate. It breaks it down a little more into specifics. You have to have a certain number earned here. And then the last thing we kind of wanted to show you is at the very bottom, it'll have your major requirements. So everything that's in your catalog that we showed you first will also be on this page. And as you're taking those classes, they'll start checking off. So this is your most current up-to-date list of the things that you've completed and the things you have left to complete. So it's really a great tool to use, and you can keep track of everything that you need here.
And you can plan for future semesters based on your academic requirements report, so what you have left to fulfill. And then also meet with an academic advisor just to make sure that you're on the right track, and your selection for the following semesters work for your major.
So that's pretty much all we wanted to show you today. Like Louis mentioned, you won't have access to this just yet, but after June 1st, you should be able to see this. Take a look at it and see the classes that you've transferred with and what you still need to complete. If you feel like something is a little off when you're making an appointment with your advisor, make sure you bring that up so we can address that and check into that. All of you should be hopefully making an appointment with your advisor your first semester that you're here. For those of you that are in the area, you can make an appointment to meet with your advisor sooner rather than later. Of course, after June 1st, because we won't have access to your transfer credits until after then. But if you're in the area, you're welcome to make an appointment. Otherwise, you can wait until fall. We'll be here. For those of you who aren't local, don't make a special trip just to make your learning plan. We'll have plenty of time to do that. And you'll be getting a lot of information from us over the summer via email. So you should know exactly what classes to take your first semester, and then we can make your plan from there.
Let's take some questions.
Okay.
So just a reminder to everyone, you can join our live chat. Just click on Be a Part of the Conversation if you're watching this in YouTube. Otherwise, you can make a question directly in the comment box. And we have a couple. I said I'd get to Cynthia and Hans first. And I love how engaged the transfer students are. To be honest, the freshmen could learn a little bit. Okay. Cynthia's transferring as psychology major. Her questions are there any suggestions a psych major should take regarding the A4 or the D4 requirement for psych?
Good question, Cynthia. So yes, we are one of the only majors that don't have those assigned as a major learning outcome. And Chrissy and I will be sending more information about this later. But for psychology, we typically recommend students take HCOM 312 for your upper division writing class. It's a standard kind of writing class that is available for students, and that is not restricted by the major. For service learning, that one gets a little more tricky. Our students take a lot of different ones. Usually psychology students will minor in something else, so there might be a class that is in that minor that counts for that service learning. There are some standard service learning classes that are actually offered by the service learning department that our students also take. So that one, it gets a little more tricky. So we'll talk about that whenever you make an appointment with me or Chrissy, Cynthia. We'll talk about those requirements and kind of the classes that our students take.
Awesome. Hans, speaking of which, is saying, when can I make an appointment with an advisor to create a 2-year plan?
So Hans, like we mentioned, after June 1st, we'll start taking appointments. We are also doing orientation during that time, and we have these webinars and some other things. So our schedules are a little more busy in June, but anytime after that, you're welcome to make an appointment. You can call our office, and one of our assistants will set you up with an appointment. And I think we're going to show you our website and the phone number after we finish up with questions.
Great. Let's keep going here. If a transfer student receives a D in one of their GE classes this semester for spring 2016, will they be able to make up that class at CSUMB, or will that revoke their admission?
Ooh.
It was a tough one.
Yeah. I mean, you can definitely take that course here and, fulfill that requirement. You can retake it at your community college if that's what you decide on doing, maybe over the summer if it's being offered. But I would say that's definitely a question for admissions, whether it would affect your status as a student here,
Yeah, we do have the golden for what we call, so there are certain requirements you have to complete before you can be admitted as a student. So those are the lower division kind of writing requirements, and also your math. So if it's one of those that you might have not passed with a C or higher, then it might have an impact on your admission. So if that's the case, definitely reach out to the admissions office. If it's something else, usually we can kind of work with that. But it'll be case by case.
Yeah, don't wait. Be proactive. If you know you didn't pass a course, contact admissions. Don't wait for them to just get the transcript. The sooner they know, the sooner you can try to work something out with them. Okay. I am able to see my transfer credit report. What does it mean if it says rejected or no rule? I'm assuming they mean for like a specific class.
Rejected or no rule? I don't know if I've seen that. There are some transfer classes, or there are some classes that you take at the community college that aren't transferable to CSU. So that might be the case. That's the only thing I can think of that I've seen some students not get credit for a class.
Or if they didn't earn a passing grade.
Cynthia, I'll make a note to myself to look up your account after this, and I'll send you an email, and we'll see if I can figure out what that is and work it out. Okay, Kaylor is asking in the YouTube comments, I'm a psych major. Since it doesn't have a GWAR class associated with the major, do we just take one from a different department in A4?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, we typically recommend students take HCOM 312 for psychology, but we've had other students take other classes that are the A4s for other majors. It just depends on that major and if they'll allow you to be in that class. Some of them are specifically for those majors, and they're not really applicable for psychology students. So it just kind of depends. You can always ask that department if you're really, really interested in taking that class. But HCOM 312 is kind of the standard.
That also goes for music majors. Music majors don't have a GWAR course built into the major, so HCOM 312 is usually recommended.
Andrea in the live chat is asking, do you need to wait for your final transcript to see the academic report? I'm guessing she means the requirements report.
No, you can begin to view it as soon as you have access to your CMS account and to that particular report. It'll just be updated as soon as your final transcripts are matriculated.
Boom. Meg in the live chat is asking, will my courses I took at my community to fulfill major requirements show up automatically as fulfilled on my academic requirements report?
Great question, Meg. So yes and no. If our campus has an agreement with your community college, sometimes they will transfer over no problem, and you'll see that on your academic requirements page. Sometimes that isn't the case though. So I know like for psychology students, we have a lower division research methods class that we require, and it doesn't show up for most of the schools that transfer in. So if that's the case and you know that you've taken that class, let your advisor know, and we can always put a substitution request in for that so it'll show up. Typically, if you've taken a prereq that the system is not recognizing, that means you're going to have some trouble getting into those upper division classes. And it's usually like the whole time that you're here. So we have a fix for that. We have permission codes that will override the system, but you'll have to use those permission codes probably every semester that you're here. So if you're transferring and you know that you've met a requirement and it's not showing up on your academic requirements page, that's a good indicator that you're going to need permission codes whenever you register for a class that has that prerequisite. So keep that in mind, and each advisor, or each major I should say, has a different way of handling permission codes. So you'll get that information probably very soon from your advisor. If you're going to orientation, we'll probably talk a lot more about that at that time also.
Yeah, look for that email from your advisor, Meg. Okay, Perla's in the live chat asking, I'm a business major. To complete Major Pro Seminar, will I have to take Business 300S? That's the one I keep seeing as I follow along.
So I believe that is the case. That is their Pro Seminar class, so you will have to take it. Your advisor will be sending out an email soon to let you know when you should take that class. Typically, it's in your first year, so if not your first semester, definitely in the spring.
Great. Okay, let me do a quick scan here, make sure there's no other questions. And I don't see any, so if you have any last minute ones, sneak them in now, and I'm going to give you an overview of what the rest of the semester looks like for all the transfer students. So we have live streams continuing every day. We're going to take a break on Monday, that's Memorial Day, and then on Tuesday I think we have another one for freshmen, and then on Wednesday we'll do this entire live stream again, but it won't be a replay, it'll be new, but we're going to just be covering the same topics we covered today. There's probably going to be different presenters, and if you feel really comfortable with what you just saw, then you don't have to attend that. But if you have more questions that you want to ask to us live as we stream, that's a good time to do that. Let me share my screen here real quick. Oh, geez. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. So on June 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, your shopping carts are going to start unlocking for transfer students. Sometime during that period, you're going to have your official CSUMB emails created, and we're going to continue doing live streams that focus specifically how to load courses into your shopping cart, and we're going to review some of the new stuff that you have in CMS. We'll touch again on your academic requirements page and on your transfer credit report, things like that. If you go to our homepage, csumb.edu/advising, I know I mention this all the time, but I want to highlight these checklists. They're really helpful. We've had a lot of students view and download them, so it seems like people are getting some use out of them. And then in June, we are also going to start Open Labs. And Open Labs is an opportunity that you can come to campus. It's going to be in the library at CSUMB, and we'll have group advising between advisors and students that you can do a last-minute check of courses that are in your shopping cart. If you need some technical help, we do ask that you RSVP, and you could do that right here on the website. Also want to point out that this is really considered group advising, and it's not necessarily a one-on-one appointment with your advisor, and especially if you live a long distance away, you're more than welcome to come, but I also don't want you to make such a long trip if you have an expectation that, you know, this is going to be a one-on-one meeting, because it won't be. But I still think if you're in the area, this is going to be a helpful thing. And the last thing I want to remind people of is we're having advising call-in hours every day. These are times that you can call in and speak to an advisor with quick questions, quick answers, and I think they've been really useful so far. One last question that we have. Does your GPA transfer in as it is from community college, or is it based on the 70 units that will transfer?
That's a good question. I'm pretty sure it's your total GPA. They don't pick and choose the classes that you transfer over. So it will be cumulative, and that will be counted into your overall GPA that you'll have here. You'll also have a CSU and B GPA, which is separate from that. But from my understanding, it's everything that you've done is a general transfer.
Awesome. Let me check one more time. See if there's any last questions. And I don't see any. So we're going to go ahead and end this live stream. Thank you for everyone that attended and has been watching in the past. I mean, we have a couple hundred views for each one, so that's a really good sign. Thank you for your questions. And as always, you can catch the replays, and we'll do another one tomorrow, I believe, right?
Yep, we'll be here.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.